Good morning. We are out here today on what feels like it's going to be a fun bike. This is the Specialized Levo SL. Modeled after their stump jumper. This is a mullet trail bike with a lightweight motor and a little bit smaller battery. So just starting the climb now, and we'll see how it gets on. Similar to how we usually do it, I'm gonna run this thing mostly in the turbo mode, see how fast it can get me up the hill and how long that battery lasts. But I'll also play around with some of the other power settings just to see how they work, specifically going uphill and downhill. Just get a good feeling for them. But right now, we are hauling at 15 or so miles an hour, which is really fast for a lightweight e-bike, so that's pretty cool. This is the Specialized Levo SL Expert Carbon. I'd say this is a pretty baller build, and it is, but as you know, with Specialized, it can go way higher than this. First off, we have that GX axis in the back there, the transmission stuff, so solid shifting. A little bit to get used to on that lever, but not bad. Also, we have the new code silvers, which I like because they're not the top end, but they do still have that pad contact adjustment, which is nice. This is a 160 in the front, 150 in the rear trail bike. You got that 36 Performance Elite, so you get all the adjustability of the Grip 2 damper, which is super important. For tires, you have the Specialized Butchers in the trail grid casing. A lot of meat on those guys. The business end, you have their mid-power motor and the battery very nicely hidden in the down tube. This is a mullet, which is pretty cool to me because I've been enjoying those. And you get the Eliminator grid trail on the back. Decent looking rear tread, a little bit lower profile than the front. 1-up 34.9 dropper, and on the S4 model, you get a 180 travel. Lastly, there's your charge port. Thank you to evo.com for the chance to check out the Specialized Levo SL. They're running a bike season kickoff sale, so check it out. There's a link in the description below. Before we get into it, please like and subscribe. New videos drop every Friday. And if you need any other gear, check out jensenusa.com. Geometry-wise, this thing is rocking a 470 reach and a 63.6 degree head tube angle. That's with the optional 1 degree offset headset cups. It has a stack of 635, which I was surprised about but really enjoy, and a nice short rear end of 432, making a wheelbase of 1238. I was surprised by its 75.8 degree seat tube angle, but due to the rest of the Geo, it didn't seem to be a problem. Top of the first climb, we're sitting at 56% battery. This is one of the steeper fire roads in the area, so just wanted to see how the Levo SL handles it. As you can see, it's not just steep, but it's pretty loose. So here's a bit of the technical climbing. It is wet and it is rooty. And this thing just claws away at it. Okay, after a few good climbs, how's the Levo SL handle? Well, let's start with the motor. First off, after riding the TQ for a fair bit of time, the noise is very noticeable. Not that they claim to be quiet, but that's a little bit of a drawback. On the positive side, the output is much more similar to that Fazua, and it seems to assist more or to a higher top speed when you're climbing. So like this thing is registering anywhere from, well, right now we're at 11, pretty solid, up to even 22 on the more meandering sections of the climb. As far as the assistance goes, it honestly has a little bit of that throwback to the older e-bikes where it rewards cadence for sure. The industry keeps talking about making the power output more natural feeling. And while I think that is true to some extent, I haven't noticed anything that's really natural, and this one just tends to cut out when you push really hard. So yeah, I like it though. Overall, it more assistance than the TQ and less noise, as far as rattling at least, than the Fazua. While the assistance was greater when you compare the output wattage, my initial impression was a bit off due to the bike being set up in kilometers per hour. Overall, it was a very good performance. What about the more technical aspects of the climb? Well, as with most Specialized bikes, traction is great, and the efficiency, while I can feel that rear shock moving ever so slightly, feels really good. So even over the wet routes or wet bridges, this thing's clawing at the ground pretty well, and especially on that real steep bit of fire road that was more loose, it clawed up it no problem. Lastly, the switchbacks, similar to the regular stump jumper, which I have a bit of experience on, not a ton. It climbs well, it goes around, not much problem. It's got that bit more upright positioning that you'd expect out of newer bikes. Weight on the front wheel is good. You do notice maybe not quite as good as some bikes on the steepest stuff, but on your everyday switchback, it works great. So overall, give it an A for efficiency and that motor, A plus for the grip, and A for the switchbacks as well. All right, we got the old uphill double. Let's see how this guy does. Nice. All right, so after 2 climbs, we are sitting right at 18% battery. I have 3 climbs lined up, getting smaller, so we hopefully don't run out of battery. And then the road out, which is pretty steep, but this bike's also light if the battery completely zonks out. All right, well, let's get into the fun stuff. We are out at Raging River, and this slap we're riding PT. It looks a little bit greasier than I was hoping for. Oh! Ha! Yep. Even in the wet, this trail goes so good. And there is grip to be found, but there are also some pretty sweet grease spots. Yeah, got crossed up in that corner, it felt good. Huh. Whew. Yeah, this bike carries really good speed, even when I screw things up like that. Whoa, almost not there. Just in case. Oh. Yeah. Woo! Double wheel slide there. Ah, love it. All right. All right, we are up at the top of our third climb here. And I did knock that output down to trail because we are now sitting at 4% battery and it's flashing. It seems like a waste of energy for the display, but whatever. Hopefully we can get up the last little hill, but just as a comparison, the Fuel EXE, I did almost the same route and it ran out of battery just before the parking lot. So I'm not totally expecting it to last. All right, let's get into how this bad boy descends. Well, on the fast and chattery stuff, it descends like a Specialized, which is to say good, lots of traction, and good composure, mid-stroke support, and basically all those things you think you want out of a bike. Where this thing excels over, let's say, the transition is the rear wheel traction under heavy braking. That's very noticeable, even with the added weight. The angles feel good, which is to say not too crazy. I do like this handlebar height, which I didn't expect to like from Specialized. I just assumed they'd be a little too conservative, but it feels good. This is a bike that's easy to get along with though. Really likes to get off the ground, pump around things, yet can be threaded, yet you can thread the needle super easy. And man, as far as weight goes, woo! Compared to the relay, it's noticeably lighter. I would venture to say, I'll weigh it when I get home, but I think it's even lighter than the Fuel EXE was. So who's this bike for? Well, of the lightweight e-bikes, this is definitely one of the most all-arounder. Will fit a lot of different riders. I also really like that it comes mullet. That's just a preference, but it's one that I have. And then, you know, if you got your racer looking for something that rides more like a traditional bike, but wants to train and not be tired, this is a really good option there too. So yeah, on some of the bigger jumps and drops, I am noticing the bottom, but overall not too bad. I would expect to have to install a volume reducer, and yeah, I would need to. Oh, that was not a good line there. Final thoughts. Well, the line continues to blur between these lightweight trail bikes. Well, the line continues to blur between these lightweight e-bikes and your average trail bike. So that's a pretty nice thing to be happening right now. The weight is not super noticeable on this guy. And while it is heavier than a trail bike, and would get even heavier if I set it up, you know, exactly how I wanted it, it comes set out of the box pretty good. And, you know, for a kind of wet ride, I didn't have any trouble. So, even though this is one of the older lightweight trail bikes, it's definitely still one of the best lightweight trail bikes.
Thanks for watching, and see you next week.
And it says we have 3% battery. We're almost to the last bit of a climb. I can't really feel that, so I'm gonna turn back up to turbo. Not much, if anything. We'll see once we get to the steeper part. Okay, so for the last little road climb back to the car, we are back up in turbo, still flashing 3%, but man, I do not feel any assistance anymore. So I don't know if that 3% is just for the battery or the shifting batteries or what, but if I feel it give out more, I'll let you know. But as of now, this bad boy's dead.